The grand hall of the Dorian TV Awards shimmered like a scene from an opulent dream. Golden light cascaded from massive crystal chandeliers, scattering across the polished marble floor in 1,000 glittering fragments. Rows of elegantly dressed guests mingled in the glow, their conversations a blend of polite laughter and excited whispers. Photographers clustered at the entrance, their cameras clicking furiously with every arrival. Prince Harry entered with a composed stride, the deep black of his perfectly tailored suit broken only by a sharp crimson pocket square. The buzz around him was immediate. Heads turned and several guests subtly angled their phones for a discreet picture. As he stepped onto the red carpet, the familiar wall of flashing bulbs greeted him. "Prince Harry, over here," one reporter called, her voice rising above the din. He offered a small, practiced smile, the kind honed over years of public life, but his gaze shifted briefly to the signage behind him. There in bold lettering was a phrase that made his expression stiffen. "The Dorian TV Awards welcomes Harry Windsor." Harry Windsor, not Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. The smile remained on his lips, but there was a flicker of something colder in his eyes. Inside the hall, the announcer's voice rang out, warm and theatrical. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next presenter, Harry Windsor." Applause rippled through the crowd, but the sound lacked the weighty hush of recognition he was accustomed to when his royal title preceded his name. He walked onto the stage, taking the podium with steady hands. His glance darted to the teleprompter. Again, Harry Windsor. No title, no acknowledgement. He inhaled slowly and began, "Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here." His tone was smooth, but there was a sharper edge beneath it, subtle yet unmistakable. The audience responded warmly to his light jokes, unaware of the small but deliberate irritation gnawing at him. He had come here in good faith, believing his identity would be respected. Yet the omission felt intentional, a quiet stripping away of something he had carried since birth. When his segment ended, he handed the award to its recipient and stepped off stage without lingering. Approaching a nearby staffer, he lowered his voice but made it firm. "Why was my title not used?" The staffer hesitated. "It's our policy to use the names guests prefer professionally." "That's not what I agreed to," Harry said, his jaw tightening as the next presenter was announced, complete with their own title. Backstage at the Dorian TV Awards, the air was thick with the hum of production, walkie-talkies crackling, crew members hurrying between curtains, and the constant shuffle of set changes. Prince Harry stood near a dimly lit corner, his posture rigid, eyes fixed on the glowing stage beyond. The applause from the next presentation drifted faintly through the heavy, velvet drapes, but his focus was elsewhere. A senior event coordinator, wearing a headset and clutching a clipboard, approached with a polite smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Harry," she began, her tone overly measured, "I understand you had some concerns about your introduction." Harry turned toward her, his expression controlled but unmistakably displeased. "Concerns?" he repeated, the word landing with a weight that made her blink. "You announced me as Harry Windsor. That's not my name. That's not the agreement we made when I accepted this invitation." The coordinator adjusted her earpiece, clearly uncomfortable. "We follow a format here. Titles are generally omitted to maintain consistency across the program." His brow arched slightly, the hint of a dry laugh in his voice. "Consistency? I just watched you introduce Sir Jonathan Reed and Dame Eleanor Walsh 5 minutes ago." There was a pause. The coordinator shifted her weight, avoiding direct eye contact. "In those cases, the individual specifically requested the honorifics." Harry's jaw tightened. "And what do you think I requested?" "My name and title are not a novelty. They're part of who I am. You didn't forget. You chose not to use them." Behind them, a stagehand passed by carrying a tray of champagne flutes. Harry stepped slightly aside, his attention never leaving the coordinator. The tension between them was palpable, though his voice remained calm. "I didn't come here to cause trouble," he continued, "but I won't have my identity rewritten to fit some arbitrary policy. If this was about avoiding formality, then fine. Strip the titles from everyone. But don't pretend it's fairness when it's clearly selective." The coordinator inhaled, as if weighing whether to respond or simply end the conversation. Before she could speak, another burst of applause signaled the end of the on-stage segment. Harry glanced toward the curtains, then back at her. "I'll finish my obligations tonight. But understand, I'm not pleased. And people will know why. The coordinator gave a brief, uneasy nod. Harry turned away, hands clasped behind his back, his stride deliberate as he moved toward the dressing area, the murmurs of the backstage crew trailing in his wake. The final portion of the awards show was in full swing, but backstage the atmosphere felt entirely different. Crew members bustled about with renewed urgency, preparing for the closing number, yet all eyes occasionally flicked toward Prince Harry as he sat alone near the side exit, his posture stiff and unreadable. The glow from the stage lights spilled faintly onto him, outlining the sharp set of his jaw. From where he sat, he could hear the host on stage making cheerful banter, name-dropping various celebrities in the audience, each one addressed with their proper accolades, titles or distinctions. Each mention was like another twist of the Niffy. A young production assistant approached tentatively, holding a program. "Mr. Windsor?" she asked, her voice hesitant. Harry looked up sharply. "It's Prince Harry," he corrected, not raising his voice but letting the emphasis settle heavily. The assistant flushed, mumbling a quick apology before hurrying away. That was the final straw. Rising from his chair, Harry strode toward the nearest exit, his polished shoes striking the floor with measured, unhurried force. The chatter in the wings seemed to dip as crew members registered his movement. A few whispered, "Is he leaving?" but no one stepped in his way. As he reached the side door, a senior PR representative for the event intercepted him, her tone conciliatory. "Harry, please, the show's almost over. If you could just stay for the closing photographs." He stopped, meeting her gaze with cool precision. "No, I came here under the assumption that my actual identity, would be respected. It hasn't been. Not once." The PR rep tried to maintain her smile, but there was a flicker of frustration in her eyes. "We value your presence." "Then you should have valued my name," Harry cut in, his voice firm now. "This isn't about ego. It's about respect. You can't rewrite who I am to fit whatever makes you comfortable." With that, he pushed open the side door. Cool night air rushed in, carrying the distant sound of city traffic. Behind him, muffled applause erupted as another winner was announced. But Harry didn't look back. Stepping into the darkened alley beside the venue, he adjusted his suit jacket and exhaled, his breath visible in the crisp air. The hum of the after-party was somewhere behind him, but he was already walking away, the glittering world of the awards fading with every step.